And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Endogenesis Chaos Knowledge Wonder. This was a pretty decent-sized Kickstarter. This is a second edition. I did not play the first edition. It's some kind of weird space thing. You're walking the path towards divine power. You're a bunch of spirits. You want to be powerful. You leave and do stuff. You come back, and there's bad guys fighting. And you fight them, and you fight other players. All right, some space theme where you're fighting people. And you're using special abilities. This is a completely card-based game. It's a board game in a sense, but you're using cards to do various things. So let's take a look at how it plays. There's a lot going on in this game, so I'm not going to be able to go over everything, but I can give you some idea of how it plays. Each player is going to have a little health counter here, where you start with a maximum health and then your actual health. As the game goes by, you're going to be spending these crystals for various ways to upgrade your character. You can spend, one crystal to upgrade your maximum health and your actual health along with it. And as you move up here, once you get to these last 5, it costs 2 crystals to move up there. So you can do this anytime you want. When you hit these 3 spots here, you're going to get these amazing Realm of Wonder cards that you'll be able to play. But you're not going to be able to play these all the time. You'll just be able to play a few of them over the course of the game. Most of what you're going to be playing over the course of the game is going to come from this Realm of Knowledge. At the beginning of the game, you'll get a couple starter cards, and then you'll draw some more from the deck. And you can put cards in front of you as skills that you have. You can replace skills that you want as the game goes by. Each skill, so there's some icons up here that show you what kind of skill it is, but it tells you what the skill does. So this does 2 damage to all enemies. Discard a card from your hand if any player uses a reaction skill. You'll be able to upgrade these skills by playing crystals underneath them. So if I have 2 crystals underneath it, instead of doing 2 to all enemies, it's 3, then 4, then 5. This one here, this cripple, does 3 to 2 enemies, but can go all the way up to 6. And then discard a card from your hand if either target has 50% or more health remaining. So these are powerful, but they come at a cost. This echo says I can refresh an exhausted skill, allowing it to be used once again this turn. So that's pretty interesting, and the cost of all these is at the top of the card to use these energy, to use these skills. So at the beginning of every round, players are going to be taking turns, and they'll be drawing. You draw 3 cards, discard 1. It doesn't have to be one of the ones you drew. And then you're going to be able to play cards. You can play cards for their energy cost at the top, which will let you activate these skills. Some cards you can just play, like this says, gain an energy, draw a card. Pretty fantastic. And you can replace skills that you have. You might do that because you want a better skill or a different skill. Sometimes you're trying to get a bunch of skills of the same type. If you do that, you will get one of these special upgrade cards, these classes here. So you'll notice I have 2 of these entropic skills. If I would get 4 of them, I would become a soul eater with a bunch of special abilities. Now, you're only allowed to have 3 skills in front of you, but you are allowed to have 1 ultimate skill, and you can only play that once you have 3. This is ultimate. Execute the effect of another player's ultimate skill, and it depends on your mimic skill level. So, but kind of there. And so players are going to be doing this on their turn. They're going to be attacking. You can attack other players, depending if it's a cooperative game or not. There's different variations of play. You can attack the monster in the middle. See, from this deck of chaos, there's going to be a monster. Now, this monster has a certain number of health, it shows. It has when it gets below a certain number of health, it's going to give a shard to the person who knocks it there. And if you kill it, you get some rewards. In this particular instance, your reward is a crystal and a card. After all the players go, the monster will go, and this one does 2 damage to all players. This is a reaction, means whenever you attack it or do something to it, that happens. And death cry, when it dies, everybody does this. When it dies, it's going to be discarded. We draw the next card. Sometimes the card is just an event that happens to all players. When that happens, you draw another monster. So this is a bigger monster here. And if you kill this one doesn't have a half-point kill thing. This one, as soon as it comes out, initiative, it does 2 damage to all players. But if no one kills it before its turn, it escapes and the monster discarded. And you keep going through this deck. Now, as the deck proceeds, you're going to find monsters in the deck who, when you kill them, your reward is going to be one of these tokens here. These tokens are prisms, and the first person to get 3 of them wins. If 2 players get 2 of them, then they'll compare scores, and whoever has the highest score, and that's the health points and shards that you have, will win the game. Now that's a very basic overview of what's going on. You're going to be going through that happens as players will do this. But on a player's turn, there's a lot of things they can do. You basically can do things till you run out. You spend energy, use your skills, equip skills, upgrade your skills by putting shards on them, get a class if you have 4 cards that are the same. You can play your wonder cards, remembering you don't have many of them. Or you can do anything you want, do nothing basically, and rest, and just draw an extra card on your turn. And so this keeps happening until someone wins. There's a lot of terminology. If you die, you come back as a weakened character briefly. Your shards don't work for a brief moment in time, but you're not dead. You're still in the game and just come back and try to do it again. There's also going to be there's also different ways to play. There's a co-op way to play where you're not really hitting each other, only the bad guy. And there's even a fast version to play where you'll have different cards laid up. All that stuff is outlined in the book itself. I'm of 2 minds in the components for the game. I don't mind, the rule book is functional. And by that I mean it's really confusing when you first open it, because you're like, there's standard, Chaos Royale, tactical. These headers work for various ones. And I'm like, wait, what am I looking at? Until you realize that the game is just basically, they're telling you how to play the game, and then there's extra stuff, the Chaos Royale and the tactical variant. But it was a little confusing going through here trying to figure out what was in each section. The rules themselves aren't terribly confusing, but a lot of examples, there's a few examples I think would have helped a lot. The cards themselves, I don't mind it. They're very abstract, that they have this kind of spacish thing. It is pretty small print. I don't know why companies insist that white print on dark cards is easy to read. It really isn't. The tokens themselves are fine. There's a little playmat that actually comes in the box, but because of the way it was rolled, mine still isn't flat, and I've tried quite a few things to get it to work. It's fine. I mean, it's not bad. I will say I think the whole game is slightly smaller than it should be. I feel like it could be just a bit bigger. Some things like the max health and health, I feel like they're a little wonky moving those around and such. And because these cards show these big icons on them, but they're not particularly different, especially when you're trying to get the same ones, it's not easy to other players to see what you can do at any given point. They're going to keep asking you. Now, the game does explain what all the different symbols mean on these cards, so that's very helpful, and I definitely recommend using them. So it's not a bad component-wise, but I wasn't like wowed by it either. Okay, so I don't dislike Endogenesis, and I hesitate to talk too much about it because this is certainly one of those games where people will go, you didn't get it. And you're right, I didn't get it, but I think I do. Essentially, you're playing special powers. It's a take that game, unless you play the total co-op game. It's a take that game where you're attacking other players and attacking the monster. You want to be the one to do the finishing blow to the monster. You also have the monster hitting you, and so there's a little bit of negativity there, but you're trying to collect these prisms. And so it runs into that problem that games often have, where it's whoever does the final blow gets the points. So I'm trying to be careful not to set someone else up for that. And I don't particularly like that style. Now, the gameplay itself I find to be very interesting. Picking your skills at the beginning of the game, deciding what to put out, using cards for energy or as their skill. That's a good thing to do. But what I found is the game stagnates a little bit because you can change your skills over the course of the game. But that's a lot of work. You've probably upgraded these skills. You've probably upgraded your hit points. Side note here. At the beginning of the game, it gives you 3 shards. It says, hey, spend these shards. Here's what we recommend. Spend 2 shards so you can move your maximum hit points to 5, which gives you one of those Realms of Wonder cards right away. You should do that. Then just do that. If everyone should do it, give us 1 shard and give us one of those cards to start with and 5 hit points. I just have a problem when there's this automatic thing that the rules say you should do this. And maybe someone will be like, well, once you get advanced at the strategy, you can do something else. I'm not seeing that as much, and that seems odd. Again, that's just kind of a side note there. I found that to be an odd thing. But once you get these skills in front of you, and you've juiced them up and buffed them up, and your hit points are up, then you're just playing the same skills. You're hesitant to put down new skills because if you do, you have to buff them up again. Now, maybe if you get a bunch of crystals ahead of time and stuff, but I just found that to be not incredibly interesting. The other part of this not being interesting, as you play these different cards, you need to know what everyone else has. And oh my goodness, the components don't help here. I don't know what you have. I'm constantly saying, how much damage can you do? How much damage can you do? Okay, turn order is going to work this way. What does the bad guy do? And it felt a little bit like too much work. Now, I want to be cautious here. Again, I don't dislike this game. I find it to be an interesting idea of a game as you play cards. But a lot of things seen in this game have been done before. Multi-use cards. I've seen that before. Upgrading a card, making that card better. I've seen that before. And I wish the gameplay here was a little smoother. It doesn't feel smooth. It feels like I'm sitting there going, hey, you can do whatever you want, your turn. Oh, okay. I can play out as many cards as I want, yada, yada, yada. I do this, I play this, I upgrade this, I do an attack. And meanwhile, I'm sitting over here going, yeah, let me know when you're done. You're done. Okay, Bob, your turn. Bob's done. Okay, Camille, your turn. And it's just not that interesting. I mean, you're watching them kill. You can't really plan what you're going to do in this game at all because you don't know what bad guys are going to be out there. You don't know what else is going to be out there. And then those role cards that give you amazing, or class cards, I'm sorry, give you these amazing abilities. You should get those abilities. So you're trying to draw cards of the same type to play them out there. I don't know. It feels like this game gives the idea of lots of cool strategies, but it feels like when you're actually playing it, you're not really doing that. Also, many of the strategies like do 2 damage, do 3, do 4, but you also take 1 damage yourself. There's some variation between them. And I don't even mind that there not being a lot of variation between them, but then I want the game to go pop, 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 and this game goes do 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 do. So again, I'm sure there are people out there who are going to love this game. And to them, have at it. There's a lot of cool ideas here. The graphic design works against it slightly for me. The slowness of play and the fact that I'm constantly feel like I'm working rather than just having fun doing things works against it a little. And yet I think there's some really cool aspects. I like building the character at the beginning of the game. I like choosing my skills. I like the fact that you sometimes have a reactive skill that comes out of nowhere. I like the idea of the enemies and fighting them, and there's a different enemy up there and stuff. But there's a little too much chaos, which, by the way, is in the name, so no big surprise there. And the other things bring it down to just below something I want to play. If I got dragged into a game of this, I'd be like, all right, let's do it. It's not that bad. But beyond that, I'm not as excited about it. So that is Endogenesis. I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. Dice Tower Judgment, interesting, but not for me.